Hi. As most of us have realised now, in Britain, some racism is more equal than others. Now, if you doubt this, and I'm sure you don't, it will be worth us reminding ourselves of a speech made a while back by Scotland's First Minister, Humza Yousaf.
The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white. The Head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every Prison Governor, white. And not just Justice. The Chief Medical Officer, white. The Chief Nursing Officer, white. The Chief Veterinary Officer, white. The Chief Social Work Advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white. That is not good enough.
This still manages to shock. Forget the fact that for a moment that Scotland is 90% white. Rather, imagine for a moment that instead of every white he contemptuously spat out, he had said black or Jewish. His career and public life would be over. But there was no media storm, no 24-hour coverage pressurising him to resign. He's still there. I mention this because next week Humza Yousaf's administration is introducing a new hate speech law, which amounts to the most frightening and draconian set of restrictions on free speech we have so far seen in the UK. You can be liable now for statements made in your own home. Yes, in the privacy of your own home. Performances of theatre or comedy could also well be affected, and centres for anonymous reporting of so-called hate speech have been set up in Scotland. Enterprising Scots might like to report their own First Minister under this new law, although I don't really reckon their chances of success. As I said, some racism is more equal than others. All around us, free speech is dying. What's happened in Scotland with the new law could easily happen in England. Definitions of what constitutes extremism here also grow broader and broader. Labour will introduce a new definition of Islamophobia, which will amount to a new blasphemy law. When a teacher in Batley showed cartoons of Mohammed to his pupils, he lost his job and was forced into hiding after pressure from Muslim activists who gathered every day at the school. He's still in hiding, and his life has been ruined. He has received no support from politicians, local or national. He has effectively been thrown under the bus. No wonder the once commonly used phrase, "it's a free country," is never heard now. A report out last week found that 75% of people feel that they can no longer speak their minds. And it is not just in the public sphere that this has happened. All of us now are familiar with the situation where, in our everyday lives, we tailor our conversations, we keep our mouths shut, or we gingerly tread carefully to see if our remarks or reactions will be met sympathetically. Most people now are simply confused as to what they can or cannot say. It's no wonder then that they mostly choose to say nothing. It's safer that way. New laws or sets of police guidelines are indeed criticised by concerned commentators for the chilling effect they have on free speech. But I would say that this is to understate it. It is not so much a chilling effect as a killing effect. And it's not something which might happen just in the future. It is happening now, in front of our eyes. The most pernicious aspect of all of this is this widespread self-censorship which now characterises our country. In some respects, one could say that this was always likely to happen. When multiculturalism was being imposed on Britain years ago, many of its champions tacitly accepted that in order for it to work, some restrictions on free speech would be necessary. What we're living with now is not a few minor unwanted restrictions, that would be bad enough, but the subjugation of free speech when it conflicts with what are considered acceptable opinions. Now, fighting back against this will require real courage, but we must. I don't just mean people with media platforms. I mean the millions of ordinary people who have become used to curtailing their own freedom of speech for fear of persecution, whether it be social or legal. As the saying goes, courage speaks to courage everywhere. We are nothing without free speech, and we cannot allow ourselves to become nothing. Thank you.